Kia ora, g'day, welcome back. Don't mind the hat. It is cold here in Aotearoa, New Zealand, in Te Whanganui a Taraponeke, Wellington. So I am rugged up. Got my t-shirt and hoodie on. I've got a beanie on. My wife actually made this for me with the pom-pom on the top. Yep. And I don't know whether she was making it for a banana head version of Joe or what, but this thing is long. So that's why I've got it the way it is. Anyway, now I've got to try to bloody sort this thing out. Might have to edit that out. See how we go. Anyway, it's back on now. Here with another reaction to Mr. Kyle Morgan on the Shawn Ryan show. So former Delta Force operator. So let's jump back in.
Like, that's where I believe that we, as a country and a fighting force, are the most lethal and effective fighting force on this planet. As military power is concerned, like, to be able to pick up and flex a division, the 82nd Airborne Division, even as a deterrent from like an international, like, from war.
Truth, like America's capability, manpower, personnel power, just their resources, second to none. The deterrent, the experience, the combat experience, just everything. They are a beast. I can say from a personal perspective, it's a privilege and grateful to be on the same side as America. Many people got their differences, in terms of both from here in NZ and Australia and around the world. People with their opinions about that we shouldn't be aligned with the US or the UK. Then who do you suggest we align ourselves with? No, my personal opinion, for what it's worth, my 2 cents, it is a huge privilege to be aligned with the US, with the UK, with Canada, obviously with Australia. We're always going to be aligned together, Australia, New Zealand, I think, anyway. And yeah, it's just a privilege. Anyway,
you know, and just by maneuvering a force, that's power. That's military power.
Yeah,
and we have that, and that's not taken lightly across the globe. You know. So I think that, you know, it's using that as a way to deter war, you know, sometimes, and the respect that we have across the country is because it was found in blood and mistakes and failures, and never losing sight of that.
How many soldiers are you deploying with?
I mean, it was
With
like
the 82nd.
brigade task force. So, like, I'd say a brigade is what, 3, or it used to be 3 battalions. I think I don't know, 4. It was 500 or something soldiers in each
500.
battalion. So each company's like 100, and there's 4 or 5 companies in a battalion.
Holy shit! So you deploy with like 2,000?
Oh yeah,
people.
Yeah. It was like a 3rd brigade, you know, task force, and then all the supporting elements, and that's where you get into like battle space owners, and, you know, like truly owning, like, in war, like owning battle spaces, and,
yeah,
and that really comes into play as I progress through my career and understanding. And so having that, at least even having the exposure to it, maybe if I couldn't make sense of it back then, it helped me understand it more eventually as I'm trying to operate in that environment.
So deploying with 2,000 plus soldiers, I mean, that I think I understand why conventional units are not so open-minded and they don't want to hear new ideas, because that would be 2,000 new ideas coming their way. So I understand
there's mechanisms in place and organizations, and that's why there's all these different selections. And, you know, you want something different, like go push yourself to see if you can cut it.
And that's the thing, your conventionals, like your infantry battalions, all that sort of stuff. And he's talking about the brigade here with regards to the 82nd Division that deployed 2,000 plus people. That's a part of it, I guess, in terms of what Mr. Ryan is talking about, 2,000 different or new ideas. It's a lot to try to process. But I think in addition to that is, I think Kyle's already starting to talk about it. There's already structures, processes, systems in place that work in regards to coordination, planning, logistics, administration, the expectations from the soldiers and the requirements, the conventional training that you go through when you go into the military and step through that process. Like New Zealand, Australia, I don't know about the UK. Maybe in New Zealand and Australia to a lesser degree, there is a direct entry pathway into the Special Forces, but nothing like America's. You got 17-year-olds that can go in straight into Navy SEALs buds, and that is, man, that's unreal. So straight out of, I guess, high school, and straight into that environment. That's unreal. That's awesome. Full credit to those guys that go straight into that. And I think that's where Shawn Ryan's experience comes from. He never went through a conventional route. He went straight into Navy SEALs and therefore into Special Forces.
And then fit in and adapt to it, because you can't just say, well, because if it just goes back to like the person that's asking why, and then they're just so like, well, they couldn't explain why, so I'm just going to motherfuck them. But you're not doing anything to better yourself or getting yourself, if it's maybe it's something you can't change. So then you push yourself to be the best, like to make the most impact you can. And that's kind of what I did. Is I looked for, I was like, there's got to be more, there's more out there. I know there is. I saw it in that first trip. I was like, there's people out there. Like, what are they doing? And that's where, there's a ton of different jobs that you can do. And
before we get into what they're doing and where you want to go and where you went, what are you actually doing in the 82nd? What is the mission? How much combat did you see? What's the op tempo? How is the leadership? I really want to explore what that first combat deployment with the conventional unit was like.
So I
love Shawn's question, so I just needed to jump in there just before Kyle starts to explain. It's really cool how he doesn't seem to have any script. It's just going off his own lived experience, his own military understanding and knowledge, and or his humility in terms of his lack of understanding or knowledge from I think you mentioned from a conventional perspective because of the route that he chose to go into the military. So this is awesome.
I got back from that Iraq trip in April of 2004, and I wanted to try out for Ranger School. That's right. And because I knew that it was a way for me to get to a smaller element or as an E3, I went to the 82nd Airborne's like pre-Ranger, and they have a whole like order of merit list, and I think I got like second as an E3, and it was a big deal. And
I'm not sure if he's lost track of the question or if he's coming into it, but from what I heard Shawn ask, he was wanting to sort of dig into what that first operational deployment was like with Kyle's time in the 82nd Airborne Division. How much combat did he see? What was the operational tempo, et cetera, like how often were they going out on jobs and coming back? Like, was it weekly? Was it daily? Like, were they going out doing day raids, night raids, then coming back, debriefing, getting ready and gearing up and going out again, then coming back? Or was it, a bit of a planned go out once a week or once a fortnight or whatever for an extended period of time and then come back? So haven't heard him starting to go into that yet from Kyle's perspective. But what I also want to acknowledge and recognise, which I doubt I've said that in any of the other reactions prior to this, and I've seen, and I've only really come to know this through the comments in some of the videos of the other reactions to Mr. Morgan, was in and around, he was like really fresh off his discharge out of the military by the time he did this interview. And so likely still trying to figure things out and adjust. From what I understand, he's doing fantastic now, which is great, but just his answer right now doesn't seem to be connecting to what Shawn has asked that he wanted to dig into. But anyway, maybe he's going to get into it.
And then when I was going to leave for Ranger School, I met Erica, my wife, and I was 19 still, but I was at a club in Myrtle Beach on a weekend, and I had a fake ID, and I was drinking in the club, and like that changed everything for me. And I was like, well, for one, she kind of ghosted me after that. So, because she was like, first of all, he's military and he's 19, like red flags everywhere. I think I asked her to like the military or ball that we were going to have coming back, military ball. She didn't go. And I left for Ranger School, and I got back, and I, that end of that summer, and I had my phone, and I had voicemail from her. And it was like, hey, I've been thinking about you. And I was like, oh, shit. So she lived in like Western North Carolina, and I fell in love like very, very quickly, and started instant father. Like I started raising her son as my own, and he was 3 when we were dating. And
this is tough, man. Like it, I don't know whether he didn't hear the question from Shawn or what. But yeah, it's gone on a very different tangent, but I'm here for it. It's cool to hear him speaking about his sweetheart. I'm guessing it's still the lady that he's with now. Well, I hope so anyway. And yeah, an instant father, so raising her son as his own, that sort of thing, but very far from the question that was put to him, if that makes sense. But like I mentioned, everything's still fairly fresh and raw and trying to adjust, etc. And yeah, I can't speak for possibly what's going on up here in the mind racing and everything, and or what he's hearing with regards to Shawn's questions. I'd be keen to hear and know. I wonder if Shawn's going to bring it back up and try to steer it back in, and if he does, I'd be really keen to see and hear how he does that. I'm sure he would do it professionally, respectfully, and with humility and grace if he is able to steer it back towards the question that he was wanting to get answers to about Kyle's first deployment.
And then she got pregnant in January, and then we got married. Or no, we got married and then she got pregnant. Yeah.
Wow.
That following year. So like, I was supposed to be going to do this, that, and the other. After Ranger School, I did EIB. I was going to go do sniper school, and they were like grooming me and I went to battalion scouts. So then I was like, this is really cool. Like we got to jump in during training and before everyone else, smaller elements, like, reconnaissance type stuff. But I also was like, I was like, I'm not going to miss the birth of my first child, Kyla. She's so my priorities. It was just like, nope. So I just, for a moment, I was like, no, I'm not going to continue to be away, and during that period, and so I was doing everything I could to like, and I went to the Old Guard. So I went to the Old Guard for.
What is the Old Guard?
It's they do like the changing of the guard, or they guard the tomb on a soldier. They do like all the military honor stuff in Arlington. But it was a way for me to get out of the 82nd and know that I'm going to be there for Kyla's birth. And I went. I was there for 11 months. She was born. I went to selection from there. I went to SFAS from there.
Well, hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on. You're getting way ahead of me.
Well, it was like,
Let's go back to your first deployment with the 82nd. What are you guys doing? Are you seeing any combat?
yeah.
Oh, man. That was slick, eh? That was awesome what Shawn just did there. I was going to push the button earlier and just say I love how Shawn is just letting Kyle go, just letting him talk and share his experience about the upcoming birth, the impending birth of his first child, what was going on in his mind. And then, yeah, slick as. Much respect, appreciation, Shawn. Thank you for the way that you conduct your interviews. Thank you for the way that you have, just guided this back to where you originally asked the question. And we didn't get that, but we got some other real awesome pieces of information about Kyle's life and what was going on. And now we'll see where things end up.
No, it was, that was the first time I saw, like, death, and, like, from combat, it just, other than just maybe a family member that passed away or whatever, like, to see death and to be a part of it.
What did you see?
Like, us maneuvering and killing people, and then, like, some of my mates are, being pulled out of Humvees and lifeless, and so it was there was a lot that happened. That whole trip was a lot. Period.
Just listening to him and watching his facial expression and his mind clearly racing and all those images coming back, I would imagine, those images coming back into his mind. It's no wonder that he maybe went, not off on a tangent, but went off and started talking about other things rather than specifically answering. That's what I'm thinking anyway. It just sort of makes sense to me, hearing him now look to articulate and describe what he was seeing, him and his team maneuvering through and killing people, seeing his mates lifeless dragged out of Humvees. That's tough, man. That's not really stuff I think anybody would want to be recalling or reliving, even though he's sitting there in a safe space, safe environment, talking with somebody that has got experience, combat experience and military and special forces experience, and the host himself, Shawn Ryan. Still, yeah, man, I can get a sense and a feel of how raw this is for him, and him being recently out of the military, as I mentioned before, thanks to the comments and the other reactions. This is hard, man.
Do you want to go into it?
I think it's. I think the first time there was two like big moments. I think it was when, like, we like maneuvered on somebody that was either it was a ambush position, and we were able to flank through and kill them. And it was just like that. It was almost like it got intimate, but only when we were like clearing through that objective, that small objective, and it was just like a snapshot. It was like, oh, what is this? This is okay. And then, like, when I first saw one of our own being pulled out of a Humvee, lifeless and dead, like just dead, I was just like, it was like looking at both ends of the good and the bad, or the good and evil, and to see it, it was confusing, in that space I was in, just in my own development.
I love how, sorry to cut off Shawn, I love how Shawn asks permission, do you want to go into it? And I've heard him do that with DJ as well. Do you want to get into that? Do you want to get into this? And I think he's probably done that on some parts of this this interview earlier, some of the earlier reactions, I think. But I love the way he does that and just treads carefully. Just very skilled. I wonder if he did any like interrogation work or technical questioning intelligence type work whilst he was in the military. I haven't watched any of Shawn Ryan's where he's been interviewed, so I need to add that to the list. Well, it's already on the list, I should say. I need to get to it. But yeah, really thoughtful, really considered, really caring in the way he asks his questions. Do you want to get into that? And he would happily, from what I've seen, change tact if Kyle or anybody was to say no. So yeah, pretty cool.
What was confusing?
Like it was like conflicting, right? Like the good guys die too, you know,
Okay.
and then the bad guys die, and
The reality set.
the reality piece of it just really, yeah, the reality was not. It became like a reality that just punches you in your heart, in your face, you know, and yeah.
What were the SF guys doing? Is that who you ran into over there?
Nice, Shawn. Just in terms of how he's changed that, I think he can see and is probably getting a sense and a feeling. I know I am just watching this, even though this is however many years ago. Clearly, Shawn's in that room, and I think he's getting a sense and a feeling that maybe he needs to shift tack towards the SF side, which may be a segue into Kyle then being able to open up and talk about his selection, or maybe parts of what he can, maybe what he can talk about his selection and moving into there. So, yeah.
There was a bunch of different elements, but we supported them on a couple missions, and I remember them, and they were some of the funner ones, or I say funner, just more thrilling. I was definitely addicted to the thrill of all of it, you know, and the the risk, you know. I think I know I was a risk taker, thrill seeker, and it started to feed into that, and I was like, oh man, this is cool. Where it's not like so. Because there was some times where it was just monotonous, where we're just like, I'm struggling to stay awake on guard, you know, in the friggin' the towers and stuff that we just kind of threw up, and we would just get mortared or rocketed every freaking day, and but you know, there'd be lulls at night where you're just looking through that one tube, you know, or whether if it was 14s or 7 deltas, I don't know, but. Hey man, you just like, all right, just fighting it. But, yeah,
I think what he's describing there, talking about that monotony and being on sentry or picket, for want of a better term, up in the towers and looking through that one monocle or just nodding his head. That's what it looked like anyway, like dozing off. Like, yeah, that gets hard, man, when you're looking through your binos or your scope or your NVG or nods. I think they're night observation devices or night vision goggles, whatever you want to call them, whatever people refer to them these days. Yeah, that can be a bit of struggle town to stay awake when you're in sort of even like normal sentry within the infantry going out. Yeah, it's a challenge, but that's part of why you're there. You need to stay awake. Your team members need you to be awake on your job, doing your job, so that bad things don't happen. But I can relate to that when he's talking about trying to keep yourself awake due to the task that they were on, and some of it was monotonous, I think was the term that I heard him use. All part of the gig.
it was 18, 19. I was 19. I turned 19 over there. And I came back after that trip. I can't even remember so much of it. It's like, I can, but accessing it, it's like I haven't thought about it. But definitely formative, like years, and not just like, it is for anyone that age, period. Like that time frame of your life is important.
Well, I mean,
but it is like, here you go.
Seeing that stuff right off the bat like that, seeing your boys die and killing at 19 years old.
Yeah.
What was it about it that drew you farther into? Because going into special operations, you're getting drawn in more.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I'm listening, this is a great question. Listening to Shawn, the reason I say it's a great question is because it looks like it's had a huge impact, and the lasting memories are there etched forever up in this thing on Kyle Morgan. And so even though he may seem like he's struggling to articulate or explain what it is that he's visually recalling and seeing from his time to answer the questions that Shawn is asking, he's still, it can seem a little bit confusing to a person or to a viewer. I know it is for me to a degree, around he's struggling to explain this, but yet he's still drawn into that environment. And the other part is that 18, 19 years of age, that's part of off on a tangent slightly. That was one of the biggest risks or concerns that we had as private security operators when you're going in and out of Iraq, as an example, that we had these 18, 19-year-olds up in the gun turrets of Humvees and other vehicles and pointing their weapons at vehicles. If you got too close within 200 meters or 100 meters or 200 meters, depending on what was written on the sign in English and Arabic, man, you were getting rounds that would be coming your way. Thankfully, never had any come towards me, but I saw a number of those warning shots fired towards vehicles, which, man, didn't look like much of a warning shot in terms of where they struck. And I'm talking about they hit the vehicles. So, yeah, it's just, that was one of our biggest concerns, the age of some of the soldiers on those guns and where there is not in a military uniform. So I get it. It's hard for them. Are you friend or foe? And they're trying to identify risks for us and us needing to use our experience to stay well back, but also try to avoid those environments and stuff as well. But listening to Kyle and being exposed to that at 18, 19 years of age. And that's not to, like, when he's saying that and when I'm thinking of that, I'm thinking of those in World War I and World War II that were even younger, that lied about their age so that they could go. They got up out of the trenches, that were in hand-to-hand combat, that, man, just saw and did some stuff that is hard for people like me or like us that haven't been involved in that type of stuff to imagine. So, yeah, hearing Kyle speak about this, I love the question that Shawn has just asked. So let's get back into this anyway.
I wanted to be more prepared. I wanted to be around a more capable
unit
force, and not that the 82nd wasn't. It was just, I wanted to be a part of a smaller team and more flexibility, be more agile. And that's exactly what I did with going to Ranger School and then staying in the battalion and the scout platoon, because it's just a platoon that supports the whole battalion. And then, eventually going to, that next year, going to SF, SFAS, the Special Forces Assessment. I was like, all right, this is exactly what I wanted.
Yeah.
When I saw that, just how they carried themselves in selection, and I was like, yeah, man.
How did you apply?
I think one of the guys that was in my team was an 18 X-ray originally, and he, obviously went through that whole pipeline, the Special Forces, to join the Army and right into that pipeline kind of thing. And they do all the special operations preparations courses and stuff, and then they go to SFAS. Well, he got roadkilled or, cut. So then, but he wanted to go back. So he started really talking to me about it. And I was like, let's do it. So him and I went together. And we both, that was January of '06. Yep. And we got picked up, and I started the Q course, the qualification course. And that was a pretty long experience, but
What was selection like?
it was interesting. I think, I was very intrigued by this out of the box way of thinking. I just remember this one statement that one of the cadre made. He's standing up there and he's like, "You know why I have my hands in my pockets right now?" He's like, "Because I got pockets." And I was just like, I was enamored with that statement. I was like, it makes fucking sense. I've got pockets. Why don't I use them? I can't put my hands in my pockets without getting detonated on by somebody.
Yeah.
I was like, it just really connected with me. I was like, you know what? I like this guy. And
It's a hard case because it just brings back memories about not being allowed to put our hands in our pockets when you're going through basic training, core training, even in battalion. Also, we weren't allowed to lean against walls. Stop leaning against the wall can hold itself up. It's just, so that's cool. That's funny that's one of his first recollections or memories of one of the cadre. He talked about one of the directing staff, I'm assuming, standing there with his hands in his pockets and making that statement. Hard case. I want to let this carry on to see if he talks more about the actual selection itself, because I don't know a lot, if anything, about the Delta Force selection. So let's tune in and see what else we can learn.
And I also like to be challenged, and in the physical and the cognitive kind of aspects, and they assess and all these different testings, and and then land navigation. I just felt so at peace doing that. It was just me against the terrain and myself and the time, or whatever it is. But everything just kind of quiets down when you're out in the woods, and making mistakes, bearing misjudgments, and it was just it kind of tied it all together, where it was like, okay. And I think the peace part of it too is the challenge of it, and the drive. It was just I thrived in that.
That's awesome to hear. I'll come back. I've just realised that's 33 minutes now. A couple of little adverts have come up, so I'll have to edit those out as well. I've got to go back and try to find those now. But I love how he's speaking about the peacefulness of it, the navigation. He loved being tested physically, mentally, the cognitive stuff, all that sort of thing. He thrived in it. What else did he talk about there? Just him against doing the land nav and all that sort of stuff. Just him against the terrain and the timings and the distances, all that sort of stuff that he needs to do. Just brings back a lot of good memories, because when you get out and be just on your own with your kit on, and you've got a mission or a purpose or a checkpoint that you need to get to, and you're going to have multiple checkpoints, and this is going to carry on for days at a time, and you don't really know how much distance you need to cover. You just know that you need to move as quickly and as well as you can for as long as you can, to make as many checkpoints as you can, or until they tell you to stop. It sorts a lot of people out. It sorts a heck of a lot of people out, especially those that don't like being on their own, especially those that need to have other people around them. He spoke about navigation adjustments or bearing adjustments or something like that, or indiscretions or words to that effect. Anyway, what I picked up from it was that maybe from time to time he might have slightly miscalculated his bearing that he was supposed to take, and may have been slightly off, but clearly he must have realised and rectified it well in advance to be able to carry on. So that definitely happens as well. It's good. I'm going to pause this one, wrap this one up, and then come back to another one. So I'll be going through a few of these, as I mentioned, just because they're so long, and I'm only just over an hour into this 5-hour long, so I've got 4 hours still left of Mr. Kyle Morgan's interview with Shawn Ryan. So appreciate your time. Appreciate you sticking around and listening to me babble on in between Shawn and Kyle speaking. Hopefully you get something out of it. If not, you get a laugh at me with this beanie on from my wife. But grateful for you all. Thank you very much. As always, anybody going through any difficulties, challenges, trials, hard times, man, all I can do is just encourage you, as always, to keep turning up, to keep staying in the fight, to know that you're not alone. You are definitely not alone. Everybody's going through stuff. Everybody's going through challenges, difficulties, hard times in some way, shape, or form. And to the degree that it impacts them, it may not necessarily be something that you and I might consider to be a challenge, but it is a challenge nonetheless. And people are going through stuff all the time, every day. So you are not alone. Keep turning up. Keep staying in the fight. Keep putting one foot in front of the other. Stay as consistent and as disciplined as you can, and know that the sun will shine again. There is a light at the end of that tunnel, and better days are closer than you think. They are coming for you. So as always, go always a little further. Remember, who dares wins and who cares wins. And until the next video, post or milestone, a big mana wave coming from me to you, filled with my aroha, respect, appreciation, and gratitude for you all.